Inside every hospital, there's this invisible war being fought, literally every single day. It's not against some enemy you can see, but against one of the biggest threats to modern medicine, these drug-resistant bacteria we call superbugs. So today, we're diving into the battle plan that hospitals are using to protect all of us.
So let's just start with the big one, right? What actually happens when the antibiotics we count on, for everything from organ transplants and cancer treatments to even simple surgeries, just stop working? I mean, the consequences are, well, they're terrifying, and that's exactly why this fight is so incredibly important.
Okay, so before we can really get into the solution, we've got to wrap our heads around just how big this problem is. Because this isn't some hypothetical threat way off in the future. It's already here.
And this isn't just a theory. Look, countries are creating actual action plans with very specific goals. So let's take MRSA, for example. You've probably heard of it. It's a common and pretty dangerous superbug. The goal here was to slash the resistance rate from over 60% all the way down to 42%. These numbers aren't just stats. They represent a massive, coordinated effort to save lives by pushing back against this rising tide of resistance.
So, what do? How do you fight an enemy that's constantly changing, constantly evolving to get around your best weapons? Well, you get smarter. You become stewards of the precious resources you have left, and that's exactly where this program comes in.
It's called Antimicrobial Stewardship, or AMS for short, and you can think of it like a protective detail for our most valuable medicines. See, it's not really about using fewer antibiotics. It's about using the right antibiotic at the right dose for the right amount of time every single time. It's a whole system designed to keep these miracle drugs powerful for when we and our kids really need them. And the goals here are super clear. Number one, of course, is making sure patients get better. But by being smarter with antibiotics, hospitals also lower their costs and, this is the big one, they dramatically slow down the creation of new superbugs. It's basically a win-win-win.
Okay, so how does a hospital actually do this? I mean, what does it look like on the ground? Well, it's not just a nice idea. It's a highly structured 6-point battle plan.
Well, this is the blueprint. At the very center, you've got the AMS program itself, and it's held up by 6 key pillars: leadership, policies, surveillance, action, education, and evaluation. It's a full-blown strategy designed to attack the problem from every possible angle.
And you know what? It all has to start at the top, with leadership. For a program like this to work, you need a dedicated team made up of people from different departments, and they need the full backing of the hospital execs. That gives them the authority and the resources they need to actually get things done.
And yeah, this is definitely not a one-person job, not even close. This chart kind of shows you how the main AMS committee links up with all these other critical departments, like the pharmacy, infection control, the labs, you name it. You can almost think of them as a special operations team for fighting infections.
Right, so the other pieces of the puzzle create this whole support system. Policies give you the rulebook for prescribing. Surveillance is like the intelligence unit, constantly tracking what bugs are out there. Education gets the troops, all the doctors and nurses trained up. And evaluation, that just makes sure the whole strategy is actually working.
All right, now let's get to the really cool part, the action element. This is where the rubber meets the road. These are the specific things that change how antibiotics get used day in and day out. Think of this flowchart as the team's playbook. It's how they decide what to do every single day. Basically, all the antibiotics are sorted into 3 groups: restricted, monitored, and, well, everything else. And depending on which box a drug falls into, a whole different set of safety checks kicks in. So what's the real difference here? Well, restricted drugs are the big guns. They're our last line of defense. A doctor can't just decide to use one. They need to get permission first from an expert. Monitored drugs are also really powerful, so the AMS team keeps a close eye on them, auditing their use to make sure everything's being done by the book. And here's a look at that list. You see names like carbapenems and vancomycin. For anyone in infectious diseases, this list is basically the final wall standing between us and completely untreatable infections. These drugs are, and I'm not exaggerating here, protected like a national treasure. They're saved only for those moments when absolutely nothing else will work.
Okay, now for a rule that is so simple but so incredibly powerful. Just one number: 7.
So what's so special about 7? Well, it represents this genius rule. Any antibiotic prescription gets automatically stopped after 7 days. Why? Because we know that giving antibiotics for too long is one of the main things that creates resistance. This rule forces a timeout, a moment to ask, does this patient really still need this?
It's such a simple but absolutely brilliant safeguard. But stewardship isn't just about rules set in stone. A lot of it happens in real time, right there at the patient's bedside. These are called point-of-care interventions, and they're all about tweaking the treatment as new information rolls in.
A perfect example of this is a tactic called de-escalation. It's one of the smartest things they do. So, when a patient first gets sick, you might hit them with a broad-spectrum antibiotic. It's like using a shotgun to make sure you hit whatever the problem is. But as soon as the lab figures out the exact bacteria causing the trouble, this flowchart shows you how to switch to a narrow-spectrum drug. That's like switching to a sniper rifle. It's way more effective and causes a lot less collateral damage.
And here's another game changer, the IV to oral switch. As soon as a patient is stable, their fever's gone, they can eat and drink, they can switch from a constant IV drip to just taking a pill. It's a huge deal. It lowers the risk of getting another infection, and best of all, helps them get out of the hospital and back home that much faster.
So, when you pull all of these pieces together, the leadership, the rules, the real-time actions, what you get is this incredibly powerful, proactive system.
Because at the end of the day, antimicrobial stewardship is so much more than just some hospital policy. It's an active defense system. It's our health system's front line in a global war, using smarts and evidence to protect patients today and to make sure these miracle drugs are still around for generations to come.
But here's the thing. This battle doesn't just stop at the hospital exit. The strategies we've just seen are a masterclass in how to use these medicines responsibly. And it kind of leaves us all with one final question to think about. Hospitals have a plan to protect these life-saving medicines. Do we?